Now that you understand the purpose behind the workbook, let's look at implementing it. This workbook can be used by you as a facilitator, the people you support who would like to work through this information on their own, or with other people in their life to have conversations about rights. Or maybe it's a mixture of all of these. Keep in mind, different people may benefit from different levels of support, and it's up to you to recognize what those levels are and provide support accordingly. To start using this workbook, let people know that this workbook belongs to them. It is their tool to assist them to understand that we all have rights, and we all have the responsibility to know what those rights are. By introducing the index page, we can summarize what we'll be talking about, including how we're going to be supporting them and informing them of their rights. If you don't know the person well, this could be a great time to ask some initial questions about how they want your support in learning about their rights. You can also ask questions to get a better idea of their history and exposure to rights. What do they currently know about them? Do they know they have rights related to choosing how they want to be supported? Do they know they have rights that pertain to their schedule and how they plan their day? How about their rights related to relationships or the use of their money? As they answer your questions, you also take this opportunity to look at their body language. Think about how they're answering your questions and if they are engaged in what you're saying. This can be a way for you to gather information about their receptive and expressive communication styles. You can gauge if they are staying interested or if you need to change your approach, like using more examples or breaking it up into smaller segments. Doing this may help you, the facilitator, determine the best approach to use. Remember, we may need to be patient, flexible, and creative during this process. You also may want to consider the environment. Maybe you're sitting at a table at your day services location while reviewing their rights, and the person seems uninterested. But you know they love the outdoors. You could bring the workbook with you and talk about it while you're at a local park or talk about a few topics while on a walk. That might feel like a more natural way of having a conversation for the person. You'll notice in the beginning of the workbook there's a paragraph about responsibilities. As we facilitate these conversations, some people may need additional support so they can assert their rights while being safe, respectful, and understanding the consequences that sometimes come with exercising rights. When a person knows their rights and feels empowered in exercising them, it can be a life-changing experience. We all need to have choice and control, but we need information to help us make informed decisions. Being confident with our choices and feeling secure in the decisions we make help all of us lead happy, safe, and fulfilling lives. You'll also see that there is a note on teams. Does the person know what that term means and who is a part of their team? Ask them who is on their team and if they chose to have them there. Also be sure to reiterate that their voice is the most important voice on the team, and they shouldn't feel forced to do things they don't want simply because their team says. The first right listed in this workbook is the right to be heard. Does the person you're supporting know that each and every person that works with them has the responsibility of listening to them and respecting what they've expressed? If the person doesn't use spoken words to communicate or uses a language that is different than their staff, what tools are in place to ensure that staff know what the person is expressing or communicating? We don't want to assume we know what a person's preferences are or how they want to assert their rights. Remember, we are not here to judge or argue people's preferences. We're here to respect and support each person for the individual they are as they assert their rights. As you review the page about being heard with the person, there's an opportunity to give examples and potentially creating scenarios related to each bullet point in your discussion. When you finish reviewing the information, take a moment and evaluate if the person is really understanding. Can they give you examples of what this right means to them? Can they tell you what responsibilities they have related to this right? If people you're supporting prefer to use the blank space to write in this booklet, then there is a lot of opportunity to do that. The facilitator can also start up conversations by either asking the prompts that are listed at the bottom of each page or using their own. Be creative and flexible when supporting an individual's preferences in learning this information. We talked about responsibilities, and as you review this workbook, you will see this concept weaved into each right, along with spaces to write about it. These bullet points and prompts can assist you to understand where the person's knowledge is and what their concerns are. Using this booklet as a tool to guide conversation can be beneficial for both the person supported and you as a facilitator. Along with defining each right and examples of responsibilities, there are also suggested prompts, formatted in many different ways to help gauge understanding and encourage future actions. Some items encourage the person to take notes about things they may want to discuss with their team. Sometimes there are yes and no questions about if a particular right is being upheld in their life, and there are other points for reflection throughout the workbook. As facilitator, you can use these example prompts or create your own. You want to customize the process so it best meets the needs of the person and their understanding. Discussing rights can lead to powerful conversations, and a person may want to address something that's bothering them, or they may have a realization that their right is not being respected. If they do, take time to have those discussions and also ensure there is a plan to address them. This isn't just about telling someone about their rights and walking away. We need to be a trusted advocate with the person to ensure their rights are being upheld. You will also notice that this workbook has places for the person to write any concerns or make notes to determine if the person needs additional support in any area. Perhaps a concern was raised regarding one of their team members. What will you do to support the person with this concern? Maybe they've mentioned something that they want to discuss with their case manager. So how will you help them do that? Moving through the workbook, there are continued prompts for the facilitator to aid discussions related to the person's rights and responsibilities regarding the services they are receiving and the more general rights that we all have. You will see topics such as voting, privacy, and being free from abuse. This workbook can also be used as a tool to guide discussion related to cultural, ethnic, and religious preferences. This section provides a great resource to you as a service provider to learn about what is important to someone regarding these topics. While this is obviously beneficial when you are supporting someone new, you may also find someone you have known for a while hasn't had their cultural preferences honored in the past, or maybe their preferences have changed. Having these topics discussed is important to ensure all staff can support the person to observe, recognize, and practice any of their preferences. As we move through the workbook, you will see other important topics like relationships, how and where they spend their time, being actively involved in their community, finances, and much more. The person should have plenty of opportunities to discuss any concerns they have and should be able to seek additional support if needed. The facilitator can use the workbook to guide conversations and determine the individual needs of support for each person. Each person has the right to make their own decisions and be supported throughout. It is important that each person, each facilitator, and all staff know the rights. Additionally, while our role is to help people be empowered to assert their rights responsibly, it's important they know that in some situations, and only with their approval, a right can be restricted. We touch on this topic in the workbook as well. We hope you found our walkthrough of the workbook helpful and that you're identifying effective methods in which you can use it. We want to take into consideration how we can support each person in a way that is best for them. This is our role. This is our job. Let's start to really empower people to know that they have rights, what those rights are, and how to put them in action. In the next video, we'll discuss the significance of continued supports related to rights and some examples of what these conversations may look like in real life.